1981 college football preview. Mid tracks.
You can name probably 12 schools that every year are going to be in the top 12. I'm talking you. I mean, your Notre Dames, your Southern Cals, your Alabamas. You know, they're going to be there every year. Well, if those teams could go out and sign unlimited, they'd get all the players because they're the traditional schools. They're the schools that as a young boy grows up, he's read about them and seen them all of his life, and he just looks for an opportunity to go. But with the 30-a-year limit, now they can only sign 30. And so that great back, instead of going to there, might slip over to your school or to another school. So therefore, the schools that maybe were unable to get the top one because they all went to the major schools, now they might be getting 3 or 4 more than they used to get. And so now then, on any given day, anybody can beat anybody.
The bomb. The bullet over the middle. The button hook along the sidelines. These are the increasingly important weapons in college football's offensive arsenal. They're all part of the passing game, a game that has become more and more exciting over the past 5 years. 5 years in which the college sport has developed the greatest overall balance in its history. But despite the popularity of the pass, the excitement of the running game will continue to be much in evidence. It all adds up to be a 1981 season of wide-open, crowd-pleasing football. For Pitt Panther fans, the sky's the limit in '81. Pittsburgh is the defending Eastern champion, but Coach Jackie Sherrill is first to concede that major adjustments will be necessary if Pitt is to repeat.
When you have a defense that we had last year, then you can be very reckless offensively. When I'm talking about reckless, you're going to put the ball in there. You're going to do some different things. Instead of throwing for first downs, you're going to throw for touchdowns. Go for the big play.
Sherrill will have to rebuild his defense, but big play specialist Dan Marino and his favorite target, Dwight Collins, will be back, as will most offensive linemen.
Right now, on paper, probably you'd have to pick Penn State as the leader in the East for next year, although they have a very, very tough schedule coming up, and they have to stay healthy. We will be competitive. Certainly we won't go in the season as well as we were last year as far as talent-wise, but hopefully at the end of the year we'll be there.
Quarterback Todd Blackledge, a freshman star last year, symbolizes the potential of Joe Paterno's young Penn State team this season. Paterno has a flock of returnees like Blackledge, including flanker Kenny Jackson, who combines with the quarterback on this play, and 900-yard rusher Kurt Warner, a sophomore last year, shown reeling off a 65-yarder against Ohio State. Elsewhere in the East, Joe Morris of Syracuse will be one of several offensive standouts that include Ed Myers of Navy, Army's Gerald Walker, Rutgers' Albert Ray, and Shelby Gamble of Boston College. Yale has been Ivy League champion or co-champion for 5 of the past 7 years. With John Rogan returning along with split end Curtis Grieve and running back Rich Diana, number 33, the Elis are favored to continue their dominance in '81. Under Coach Dick Crum, the North Carolina Tar Heels dominated the Atlantic Coast Conference last year. They did it thanks to a scrambling quarterback, Rod Elkins, and 2 1,000-yard rushers. Amos Lawrence on the receiving end of this pass. And Kelvin Bryant, shown displaying a second and third effort on this big play. Bryant and Elkins will be back, as will outside linebacker Calvin Daniels, who, with plays like this interception, helped the Tar Heels register the 8th best scoring defense in the country. Jerry Claiborne's Maryland Terrapins, 5-1 in the ACC, were 12th overall in total defense last year. Outside linebackers Howard Eubanks, who made that interception, and Mark Wilson, who intercepts in the end zone, were key reasons. Both are returning, along with offensive threat Charlie Wysocki. Quarterback Tall Avery is the throw part of an effective scoring combination at North Carolina State. Mike Quick is Avery's sure-fingered receiver. Clemson, too, has a scoring twosome. Homer Jordan, shown throwing long to Perry Tuttle. Tuttle caught 53 passes last year, 13th best in the nation. At Duke, Ben Bennett, a freshman in '80, passed for 2,000 yards, often to Ron Frederick. Bennett's supporting cast will be strong, so Blue Devil fans have reason for optimism for the first time in several years.
All of our fans have gotten a taste of being number one, and as would be expected, they want to do it again.
If national champion Georgia does it again, Vince Dooley's Bulldogs can't possibly play the Cinderella role they assumed last year. A miraculous victory over Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, capping a season in which freshman Herschel Walker emerged from nowhere to become the most talked about player in the country.
I doubt if I've ever seen a young individual that has handled himself as well as he has. I've never seen one that has had as much publicity, as much pressure, as much attention. I don't see how anyone his age or 20 years older could handle it any better than the way he has handled himself. He's got his feet on the ground. He's very mature. He keeps a very level head about everything, and he's been a tremendous example to everybody.
The Bulldogs didn't get to the top with Walker alone. This last-minute play saved them from a defeat by Florida. Quarterback Buck Ballou finds split end Lindsey Scott, and Scott races 74 yards for the winning touchdown. Georgia may have an even tougher time beating Florida this season. Gator coach Charlie Pell surprised a lot of people last year. In Wayne Peace, a freshman in '80, and receiver Tyrone Young, he has the basis of an authentically powerful team. Alabama fans consider Lenny Patrick the Tide's answer to Herschel Walker. Patrick helped lead Bama to the third best rushing offense in the country. But Bear Bryant's pride and joy was his defense, which yielded an average of only 1 touchdown a game, and many members of that tenacious unit will be returning. Alabama will not be the only team in the Southeast Conference with a touted defense. The league is loaded with talented defensive linemen, linebackers, and safeties. Florida State, the South's and one of the nation's top independent teams last year, has quarterback Rick Stockstill and fullback Mike Whiting returning.
I used to coach at a state where we only had 1.5 million population. Well, if you only have 1.5 million people, there's not enough players. The ones that are there are good, but there's not enough of them. So now you're going to a state with 9 million. That's enough to supply 1 school, 2 schools, 3 schools even, you see. And what's happened is Miami and the University of Florida and Florida State are beginning to keep more of these Florida boys at home.
Miami, 8-3, handed Florida State its only regular season defeat last year. Quarterback Jim Kelly and tight end Mark Cooper are among the Hurricanes' returnees. Baylor halfback Walter Abercrombie was the key to the Bears' surprising victory in the Southwest Conference last year. Abercrombie, who gained 1,187 yards, will be back, abetted by Fireplug fullback Dennis Gentry. This is Gentry scampering 65 yards on an option play. Baylor coach Grant Taff also has Jay Jeffrey returning at quarterback.
Jay Jeffrey is a person that, as a quarterback, you wouldn't select him as the greatest passer you'd ever seen or as the greatest runner you'd ever seen, but you put him on the field in the combination of both, plus his leadership ability and the fact that I think he's really a winner in everything that he does. He leads us to victories. We're going to play with a lot of young people. We shouldn't be too good defensively, but in that respect, we weren't supposed to be very good last year and ended up leading the conference defensively.
Texas won 7 of 11 games in '80, an off year for the Longhorns. Quarterback Rick McIver and split end Turkey Walls will be on hand to try to collaborate on long scoring plays like this one. Coach Fred Akers also has Donnie Little back to battle McIver for the quarterback spot. And at defensive tackle, All-American Kenneth Sims, number 77, will be returning. Sims, 6'6" and 260 pounds, epitomizes the fierce competitor with a heart of gold that shows once the game is over. Southern Methodist rolled to 8 victories in 11 games in '80 under Coach Ron Meyer. The Mustangs were powered by tailbacks Eric Dickerson, number 19, and Craig James. James, number 32, and Dickerson, returnees this year, alternated in the backfield, each gaining around 900 yards. Houston's hallmark is wide-open play, the type of play typified by split end Linnell Fee. Fee goes and gets them, whether they're long passes, almost on target, or short ones that seemingly have gone astray. Back along with Fee is fullback David Barrett, a specialist at staying on his feet until extra yards are gained. The specialty of the Southwest Conference in recent years has been close, hard-fought battles for the championship with nearly every team in contention. The conference is acknowledged as the best balanced of them all.
In the last 6 years, it's been sort of topsy-turvy as far as who wins the conference championship. Houston's won 3, Baylor's won 2, Texas and Arkansas won apiece. And that is kind of an interesting switch around because when I first came into the league in 1972, Texas had won the championship 6 straight times, and I think the other 2 or 3 times have been won by Arkansas. So it's really been a change, and I think it all reverts to probably the 30-man limitation.
I think the football talent is spreading out more with the limits of 30 and 95. I think have been very healthy and very good for college football, and I think that's helped maybe a little more isolated parts of the country, such as members of the Western Athletic Conference, to help improve their programs.
Despite improved programs at competing schools, Lavelle Edwards still has Jim McMahon directing his extraordinarily effective passing attack, so the Cougars remain the team to beat in the Western Athletic Conference.
I believe that we've been able to create an atmosphere or an environment there to where a quarterback can succeed. With Jim's ability to run, to throw the ball, it's made him one of the most exciting football players we've ever had at BYU.
McMahon led the nation in passing efficiency and total offense. His statistics were the best of any quarterback in NCAA history. McMahon will be teaming again with Danny Plater as BYU tries to repeat not only as WAC champion, but as the country's top offensive team. With BYU's offensive coordinator now coaching San Diego State, the Aztecs may soon have a passing game to rival the Cougars. But the pass is not the only weapon used by WAC teams. The conference boasts more than its share of yard-gobbling runners. Big 8, Barry Switzer, coach at Oklahoma for 8 years, has either won or shared 8 championships. In 1981, the Sooners are favorites again. Halfback George Buster Rhymes is OU's game-breaking runner. He averaged 7.7 yards a carry last season and scored 9 touchdowns in 86 carries. Sooner fullback Stanley Wilson is both big and fast. This up-the-middle run went for 53 yards. Only at quarterback is there a question mark. Nebraska's Tom Osborne lost only to Oklahoma in conference play last season. This year, his hopes of beating out Switzer ride on the likes of tailback Roger Craig and split end Todd Brown, who makes diving catches like this as a matter of course. But the Big Eight stacks up as more than a two-team race in '81. Kansas, Iowa State, and perennial contender Missouri have the manpower to make the race to the Orange Bowl more interesting than ever. The big news in the Big Ten is a significant change in offensive strategy at Michigan.
We have left the option play somewhat, not that we won't run an option play or two, but basically our attack is power football and passing. And when you have a receiver the caliber of Anthony Carter, if you don't get him the ball 10, 12, 14 times a game, you're making a tragic mistake. Because if he does, he's going to get you 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Michigan has a lot more offensive talent than Carter. Coming right at the camera is fullback Stanley Edwards, another all-around performer, as punishing a blocker as he is a power runner. Then there's Schembechler's #1 running back, Butch Woolfolk.
Butch Woolfolk, the last 2 games of the year against Ohio State and in the Rose Bowl against Washington, developed into the kind of back that we all thought he could be. He's a great runner with great speed and is running with more authority than he's ever run before. And I think that in 1981, he's going to have a sensational year. Ohio State should be the team to beat.
Art Schlichter is the man acknowledged as one of, if not the best, quarterback in the country. He is the key to Ohio State's chance to dethrone Michigan. Schlichter is an agile and effective runner. He scored 7 touchdowns rushing, as well as a formidable passer. Split end Gary Williams, who caught 32 Schlichter passes last year, will be back as well. The Buckeyes' perennially strong running game will be bolstered by number 26, Jim Gale. And number 46, Tim Spencer, who will probably move to the tailback position from fullback. Michigan and Ohio State will score, but it won't be easy. Several Big Ten teams have defensive talent to spare. There'll be some surprises when the conference's irresistible forces meet immovable objects. At Notre Dame, new coach Jerry Faust has an experienced quarterback in Blair Keel, only a sophomore. Keel earned his spurs as a freshman, leading the Irish to a 9-1-1 season. Notre Dame will be particularly strong on defense, with Bob Crable at middle linebacker. And defensive back John Krim, who has the speed to turn interceptions into touchdowns. In the Pac-10, defending champion Washington has half of a potent passing attack. Coach Don James is set at wide receiver, but the strength there underlines his problem elsewhere.
We're going in with a new quarterback. I think another critical position that will dictate the passing will be the tight end position. We will be going with a new tight end.
Elsewhere in the Pac-10, high-caliber quarterbacks are available in quantity. At Stanford, there is John Elway, a top percentage passer with a 65% completion rate. At Arizona State, Mike Pagel made a name for himself as a brainy exploiter of enemy defenses. Tom Tunnicliffe of Arizona got a chance to fill in for the injured regular quarterback as a freshman last year and won the job on a permanent basis. California, there are two touted returnees vying for the first-string job. But whether it's Gail Gilbert or Jay Torchio, who winds up throwing, the man who'll make the attack go is receiver Floyd Eddings, a world-class sprinter who was injured last season. But the potential powerhouse in the Pac-10 is defense-minded Southern California. The Trojans have 3 or 4 defenders who are possible All-Americas. Among them, linebacker Chip Banks, number 51, who is as quick and cat-like as he is rugged. On offense, Southern Cal has Marcus Allen, the country's second-best rusher last year. Allen is considered a leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy this season. Stanford's Darren Nelson is also a Heisman possibility if he can stay healthy. Nelson, a broken field virtuoso, is one of 2 players in NCAA history to gain 1,000 yards and catch 50 or more passes in a single season. He did it twice. As always, the Pac-10 will be a lively mixture of defensive battles, scoring sprees, and upsets. Every team in the conference has the material to make 1981 an interesting year. That we have seen is true about teams in most of the conferences and in most parts of the country. Bobby Bowden summed up the outlook for the 1981 college football season in his opening remarks. With new recruiting regulations making teams better balanced, he said, the claim made by sports with evenly matched teams now applies perfectly to college football. On any given day, anybody can truly beat anybody.